Good afternoon from beautiful rural central Virginia. We are finally in our new house. Well, the dust has settled, the champagne is gone, the mess has to be cleaned up, but the election is over. Some people are very happy, some people are very sad, and many others are just like, it's another day. Well, Trump has begun, began Trump has begun to name his cabinet appointees and others in his inner circle. Um, the last administration, Joe Biden, he set the bar pretty low. So there's obviously some consternation about Matt Gates. I don't think he was exactly the ideal nominee, but when you consider the feckless Merrick Garland, who's Biden's attorney general. Matt Gaetz almost looks good in comparison, but no, he's not a good candidate. It's possible that Donald Trump put him up there knowing he won't get confirmed. That way, he's already resigned his seat in the U.S. House, and um, Governor Ron DeSantis could appoint somebody else to fill that position who would obviously be another Republican. But Matt Gaetz is definitely the kind of guy who might raise your eyebrows, pun intended. Um, in Biden's cabinet, you had Kamala Harris, the vice president. You had Mayorkas, uh, DHS, Secretary of Homeland Security, who doesn't want to secure the homeland. That guy's like in outer space or something. You had Tony Blinken, Secretary of State. You had a guy named, I believe his name is Miguel Cardona, Secretary of Education. Don't know that much about him, but the Department of Education at the federal level shouldn't exist. Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary. She used to be with the Fed, so she's a kind of lady goes into a pizza parlor, orders a large pizza, and they say, "Do you want that in six slices or eight?" She says, "I'd rather have it eight. I'm really hungry." Um, she's a money printer from the day as long as the day is. She was the one who said inflation is transitory. Well, yeah, it's a lot more than transitory, but um, Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, seems like a nice guy, but that fiasco he pulled where he went and had surgery done and took a couple days off and didn't notify the chain of command, that could have gotten ugly. I don't know if he was a DEI hire or not. I honestly don't know. I mean, he was a general and everything. I've never heard anything bad about the guy, but sometimes, he did a lot of double talk around the thing in Afghanistan and didn't seem to, you know, want to own up to the debacle we had there. But I don't know. And the renaming of military bases, maybe he's woke. I don't know that much about the guy. Uh, as I said, Merrick Garland, Attorney General, Secretary of the Interior under Biden, a guy named or a lady named Hayland. Don't know that much about her. Um, she kind of stays below the scenes. Tom Vilsack, Secretary of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture is another agency that I just don't know if it's constitutional at the federal level. Um, every state already has its own Department of Agriculture, much like the Department of Education. Every state already has their own. It seems like it's wasteful and redundant. Um, and I bet you there are probably um, not very many farmers who work for the Department of Education. Or I'm sorry, the Department of Agriculture. Seems to me that you get into government by uh, you get into a powerful position where you regulate people, but you really don't do their job or know that much about what they do. The Department of Agriculture, I know they used to manage food stamps. I don't know if they still do that anymore. I don't even know if they still use food stamps. I think they do it electronically by an EBT card, but that seems kind of out of the purview of the federal Department of Agriculture. Um, Commerce Secretary Raimondo, that's, you know, I guess that would help with negotiating trade and stuff like that. I don't know that much about the person who currently does it. Becerra for HHS, you know, don't know that much about the guy. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, does he really know anything about transportation? No. Was he a diversity hire? I don't know. He seems like a nice guy. He seems reasonably intelligent, but he's in over his head. You'd probably be better off having somebody with more experience in that area. Jennifer Granholm, Secretary of Energy, who doesn't know anything about energy. But Democrats have had Leon Panetta as Secretary of Defense. He doesn't have any military experience. He also directed the CIA, didn't have any experience there. So over the past couple of years, we've set the bar pretty low for people. That's not to say that Republicans have had stellar appointees either. Trump had some real winners his first time around, but he has his chief of staff, this Susie Wiles or whatever her name is. She seems like she's pretty tough. I don't know that much about her, but she's a little woman, but she's loud, and she would probably be the first one to tell Trump to go jump in a lake if he came up with a bad idea. So maybe he might need some pushback. Tom Homan, I believe he's going to be the border czar. He was in charge of that before. He seems pretty aggressive on securing the border to the country and cracking down on illegal aliens. Um, you know, Steve Miller, probably assistant chief of staff. He's not the singer; it's a different guy. I've heard good things about him. I've heard that Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so she's a governor from a border state, but the DHS does other things too, like the TSA, and I'm sure they have stuff involved with the ports and security there, airport security. But you look at Alejandro Mayorkas, the current DHS secretary. You have a Secretary of Homeland Security who doesn't want to secure the homeland. So I think she's a pretty tough lady. She'll probably do better. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Don't know about him. Marco Rubio is one of those guys. He seems, yeah, okay. He says something good one day, and the next day, he almost seems like a globalist. I don't know. But then you compare him to Tony Blinken. Can he do any worse? That's a pretty bad slogan to have. Can we do any worse? But when you set the bar really low, somebody else is going to slither underneath it. Secretary of Treasury, a guy named Bessent. I don't know that much about him. I did hear him during a radio interview, and a lot of the things he said made sense. How we could, be on the path to make a great economic recovery, and how we need to grow wealth. We can't just get out of this situation by constantly printing money. And we're not going to have prices just falling back down to where they were before. But if we can get real organic economic growth, people become wealthier and have more purchasing power by default. That's a tall order, but maybe they can make it happen. Trump has nominated Pete Hegseth to be defense secretary. He was a major in the Army. I believe he has combat experience. Lloyd Austin was a general. Don't know if he was ever in combat or not, but Pete Hegseth, they're laying a lot of hate and blowing smoke at him because he was a weekend host on Fox News. Well, so what? I don't really know what that has to do with it. He has said a lot of good things about the purpose of the military is to hurt a lot of people and break a lot of things. And we need the military to be more of a fighting force and less of a woke social experiment. I can't disagree with him there. I was in the Army Reserve a long time ago, long time ago, as an enlisted man, and I was later an officer, but I was never in combat or anything. But if you have any military experience, some of what he says does appeal to you. Now, can he get it done? I don't know. Is there a better candidate? Probably. I haven't heard who would be the, I guess he would call it the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He hasn't made, as far as I know, he hasn't made any appointments on that. But there's a lot of corruption in the upper ranks of the military. A lot of the, you know, a lot of good generals were sent packing years ago, and um, you know, you know, look what happened to one of the other generals Trump had in his inner circle, Mark Milley. He kind of turned against him. What he did was pretty bad. Even if you don't like Trump, what Milley did, allegedly speaking with his counterparts in China, basically undermining the president, you could get dismissed for that. Um, that's just not cool. If you're a general, you serve at the behest of the commander in chief. Um, you know, that's one thing you don't do that if you work underneath the president. If you can't handle it, then you just resign. You don't try and undermine them. Tulsi Gabbard or Tulsi Gabbard, I don't even know the proper pronunciation of her name, and I apologize. I've been following her for a couple of years. She's really grown a lot. Having her as director of national intelligence, a lot of the deep state people and the rhinos and the military industrial complex, some people in the intelligence community are scared half to death of her. They're saying all this stuff. Oh, she's a Russian asset. She likes Bashar al Assad of Syria and all this. And no, they're scared because as director of national intelligence, she would have access to a lot of incriminating information that could cause a lot of lost sleep for some of the people very high up in our government and people who might be in private industry who are associated with government. Um, you know, when you have that kind of information, you have the key to every building and you know where the bodies are buried. And there's probably a lot of paper shredding going on right now with the CIA and, you know, what do you call it? The DIA, all these little intelligence agencies, even the FBI. There are a lot of good people who work for those organizations. There's a lot of good field agents. Even with the ATF, even with the IRS, some of the alphabet soup agencies that people don't like, there are some good field agents, good street level people who are trying to do the right thing, who want to try and do their jobs properly. But there's a lot of those agencies have been compromised. There's a lot of hinky stuff and shenanigans going on, and those people need to be weeded out. And having her in charge of intelligence might be a part of that. She has an intelligence background. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve as it stands. She's been deployed in 2 or 3 different combat zones in the Middle East. She's actually quite intelligent. She's not my cup of tea politically on every issue, but if you ever listen to her during an interview, watch her speak, look at how she handles herself. She's quite competent, quite astute. She knows what's going on. She thinks fast on her feet, and she's willing to listen to or entertain an opposing viewpoint. She doesn't just like shout over people like or dismiss everybody like so often is the case in DC. I really thought she was in the running to be Donald Trump's VP choice, and if he would have chosen her over uh, JD Vance, he probably would have won by a larger margin. A lot of suburban women just there's something about JD Vance that turns him off, and he's very strongly anti-abortion, so that turns off a lot of educated women in the suburbs. A lot of them could relate to Tulsi. Yes, Tulsi is pro-choice, but she's not the type of person who's going to die on that hill. You know, she could still work very effectively with a president who disagreed. She's also a very strong woman who's not afraid to speak her mind. With all she would do it with the due level of respect, but she's pretty tough. It'll be interesting to see what the confirmation hearings are going to be like for her. Now, Trump said he wants RFK to be HHS secretary. There's a lot of things to like about RFK, but then sometimes he's kind of out there on other things. I'm not, I think that's going to be a contentious hearing. I think he has a bigger chance at being confirmed than Gates, but I don't, I'm not really sure. Um, not really sure how that's going to go. But they're lining the things up, and the Senate, has to confirm many of these people. Now, I don't believe, as I just said, Tulsi would be in a confirmation hearing. I don't think she has to be confirmed in that position. I'm not sure, but I don't know if that require. There are some positions like chief of staff, I believe, maybe the CIA director. There are some things that don't require approval of Senate. Only the cabinet positions absolutely do require Senate approval. I just think it's going to be, is Trump smarter than he was 8 years ago in picking people to be around him? I know Trump is a big believer in loyalty. He's kind of got that narcissistic personality. But, you know, is this gonna is this going to be better than his people last time? I mean, some of these other people like Milley and John Bolton and um, many of the other people who didn't work for Trump very long, is this going to be a repeat? Is Trump going to pick his cabinet and then 6 months later there's going to be new people there? I don't know. I have no way of knowing that. But like I said, you look at some of the people in the Biden administration, and they're all these people are going, oh well, Tulsi's not qualified, or you know, um, Marco Rubio isn't qualified, or Kristi Noem isn't qualified. But then you look at the people Biden has now in his administration, and you're like, really? Those people are not exactly the best and brightest. So it remains to be seen. And I guess we're just going to have to let the process go through. But I'm sorry I haven't had a video in a while. I've just been busy. We came back from Germany. We lived in one extended stay hotel while my wife finished up working for one agency, and then we had to move to another extended stay hotel an hour to the west, closer to where her office is. And then we were having our house built, and we closed. We moved in with one bedroom of furniture that we had in the basement of the other place, and we were just living out of one bedroom until our furniture arrived over the weekend from Germany. And now we have to sort everything out, and I'm trying to put everything away. She's working TDY up in Northern Virginia today. She'll be gone till Friday, so that at least gets me time to, I've been like cleaning out the garage. I've been building those metal shelves that the movers had taken apart, and I had all these missing pieces and parts that didn't match, and I got them done late last night. So I was kind of proud of myself for that. So I was doing some laundry and cleaning up around the house today. I just took a break to make this video. I'm going to get some lunch. I've got some errands to run. Then I'm going to come back and start putting stuff away in the garage now that I have shelves. And we picked up our car yesterday. We had to go down to the port down by Norfolk and pick up our car from Germany. It came in. It was a little dirty. It wasn't, bad. When we took it to Germany, we had it all clean and we dropped it off, and it looked like it went through a mud bog. This time there was just some, you could tell it had been rained on. It was minor dirt. So the first thing I did yesterday afternoon is I ran it through an automatic car wash and took some towels, got her all cleaned up, and got her put in the garage. It's just a 2021 Mazda, nothing great, but we got 14 payments left on it, and it only has 35,000 miles on it. So, and then we have a Honda SUV that's already paid for, and I have a Ford pickup truck that is in a couple months it'll be 21 years old, but that's kind of like the knockaround vehicle, passes everything on the road but a gas station. So we got some land out here, so it's nice to have a pickup truck to go get stuff for it. But anyway, I'm sorry I'm rambling on a little long, but yeah, I haven't made a video in a while. I kind of, with YouTube, I watch it all the time. I watch and I listen to YouTube music. I just don't put up stuff that much, but I do watch videos from other people on many different subjects. I found myself the other night, I was watching a video of this guy. He has a tow truck and he goes around repoing cars. And another guy has a tow truck, and the apartment complexes call him when they have vehicles without tags, junk cars, and stuff like that. And I watched this stuff I was watching it for like 2.5 hours, and I'm like, why would I be fascinated by something like that? But it was just interesting, the people that he runs into. And I sometimes, of course, I like the funny cat videos. They're always good for entertainment. But I like the ones, the dash cam videos. People have dash cams and stuff, and the stuff that you witness when you're driving out on the road. Um, it is you do catch some interesting stuff out there. But anyway, I'm going to leave it with that. I'm going to try and get back to doing shorter videos that are more regular. Maybe I'll start telling jokes or something again. But sorry if I lost your attention. But I just think these cabinet choices are kind of interesting. But I don't understand how people can come up and say, oh, well, that person's not qualified when you've got somebody in there doing a very crappy job. As for the Department of Education, I think that there's really not any constitutional reason for it to exist at the federal level. Every state already has it. What you have to do now is you are taxed, you send your money up to DC, then you have to lobby your senator or your representative to get federal money to come back down to your school district. Well, why not keep the money in the states in the first place? The Department of Education was created by executive order, and I believe it was executive order, and there may have been an appropriations bill passed back when Jimmy Carter was in office. And every president, well, every Republican president since Reagan had talked about getting rid of the Department of Education, but it's like the weather. Everybody complains about it, nobody does anything. I do believe that one of the people Trump nominated for education secretary, um, I think her name was Tiffany Justice or something, said that one of her main jobs would be to get rid of it. Okay, that's a libertarian approach. Get somebody in charge of an agency who promises to get rid of it. But really, it wastes billions and billions of dollars. And what's happened to our society since it was created? Everybody's being dumbed down. They don't teach economics, civics, or history anymore. So just think, with all that money, if it never went to DC, your state or your county, however you do your schools in your state, your city, your township, your borough, your village, you could hire more teachers. You could, hire another custodian. There are many things that you could do with that money instead of sending it up to DC, where they try and concoct a one size fits all situation that they try and shove down everybody's throat. Um, Many people say, well, if you want to abolish the Department of Education at the federal level, that means you want everybody to be ignorant. No, that's not true. Just because we don't want the federal government doing something doesn't mean we don't want it done at all. Okay. There are things, that's why we have states. And education is not one of the enumerated powers of the federal government. Neither is retirement or healthcare or medicine, for that matter. And every time government gets involved in these things, look what it does. It messes it up. So that's just, I really would like to see the Department of Education be abolished. And people sometimes say, well, what about the people who work there? What about their jobs? Well, when federal agencies make policies or make rules that put private people out of business, do they give a damn? No. They go home. They still get their bloated salary. They sleep at night. So, why not lay off a few bureaucrats? If those people who work for the DOE are actually that good, they will be hired by a state or a locality. But we need to start getting things out of DC. And, we're 36 trillion in debt. We have 120 to 180 trillion in unfunded future liabilities. We got to start cutting some places. And the Department of Education, the Department of Agriculture, and maybe even the Department of Energy. Does the Department of Energy generate any electricity? Probably not. What about Department of Labor? I guess to a certain extent you need some role in that capacity, but even the EPA, they've gone way outside the scope of protecting the environment, and they've gotten very militant, where they almost have lawmaking ability, which they don't have that constitutional power. Um, you look at even the Department of Transportation, some of the things they do. Article 1 of the Constitution says all legislative power shall reside in the Congress, not the executive branch, not the judicial branch. not the administrative state. That's not what it's supposed to be. So Uncle Sam has gotten too big. We got to start putting the genie back in the bottle. Gonna have to start making cuts. People talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk being appointed to, cut the budget. They can't do that. Only Congress can cut the budget, along with the president. They're just giving advice on what to cut. So people are thinking that Elon Musk is going to go in and cut out all this waste. He can't do it. He can advise, he can point out and say, this is wrong. Vivek Ramaswamy can say this is inefficient, but they're not elected by anybody. They're just advisors. And people need to be cognizant of that. We have our founding fathers gave us a fantastic blueprint with the Constitution and the system of a federal republic, which we are not a democracy the way people often think of that word. We're a constitutional republic that utilizes the democratic process. There's a little bit of a difference there. It's semantics, but it's important. And in order for the government to function at the proper size, it also needs to function at the proper level. We have vertical levels of government. You've got your county and your township and your borough and your city government, municipal government count, and then you go up to the county level, then you go up to the state level. There are certain things that local governments do best, and county governments do best, and state governments do best. And there are only a small number of things that the federal government is supposed to be doing. But we have a federal government trying to do 1,000 different things and be all things to all people, and it ends up being nothing to nobody because it's operating outside of its constitutional parameters. There's a reason why the governor of Idaho can't declare war on Bosnia. Only Congress has that power. But do you want President Trump or President Biden running the school lunch program at your kids' elementary school? No, probably not. The federal government is trying to do these things it was never designed to do. They're trying to come up with this one size fits all stuff in DC and force it on the states. But it was the states that created the federal government, and people often lose sight of that. So anyway, I'm pushing 20, almost 28 minutes. I got to get out of here. But thanks for tuning in and putting up with my boring rant. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.